Well, I'll go ahead and get started. I'm Angie Stumpdet, I'm the Drover's editorial leader and co-chairman of this committee. I work with Rachel Waggy. Unfortunately, today's a big day for her. KLA convention starts tonight in Manhattan, so she's busy getting ready for that big event in Manhattan. And so I know she really wishes she could be in here, but we all understand what she's going through today. But I wish her welcome, all of you, and thank you for joining us. I think this topic, for me in my role today, is very important to me. I appreciate the press releases that I get from both Wyatt and Holly, and able to turn them and use them on drovers.com. And so I'm really excited to hear about them talk, and we kind of brainstorm more about how um, uh, they can help us, or, they can write press releases that can get published easily and effectively and make the job on editors, in my opinion, is what they're helping us do. So, before we get started with them, Stacy Fox, our executive director for LPC, she may have a few comments, updates for everyone today.
Yes, thank you so much. This will be really quick. I just wanted to remind everybody, if you haven't seen the email or Facebook post, that we are currently in the voting period for our People's Choice Photography Contest, sponsored by Modern Litho. So we will continue to promote that, but please go vote in each of the categories. There's a different link for each category. So please go vote in each category. And we have some very talented photographers in our organization. And so we can't wait to highlight them for all of you. For those of you attending CattleCon, be sure to come to our luncheon, which is February 4th at 11:45 in the morning. And we have tickets available for that on our website. I'll drop a link in the chat as well. So we'll have tickets to the luncheon as well as our drawdown raffle drawing as well. So we've got some great items already lined up for that. And then you will start to see membership renewal information come out in December. Memberships will be expiring at the end of the year. So we hope that you have all found a lot of value in your membership for those of you that are. If you're not a member, if you join now, it would be good through December of 2026. So don't delay. We will go ahead and give you that year worth of membership. So if you have any questions about your membership or renewal or about becoming a member, I'm happy to answer any of those questions, and I will drop my information in the chat. But with that, I want to thank Wyatt and Holly for being here, and Angie and Rachel for organizing, and all of you for being here today. Thank you.
Thank you, Stacy. We appreciate all you do for LPC, and we know you do a lot to keep us in track, and thank you for all that you do. We'll get started here with our topic today, writing press releases that get published. We're very lucky to have two professionals with us that are going to share with us how they, what they do to get their press releases published, and kind of talk that through with us. And I'll let them tell us a little bit about them, but I appreciate both of them and what they do for me at Drovers. So I think Wyatt's going to get started, and I'll let Wyatt introduce himself and go from there.
Yep, I'm gonna get my screen share going here. Okay, so our overall discussion is writing press releases that get published. A bit about myself. Um, I'm Wyatt Bechtel. I'm a PR supervisor with Broadhead. They're an agency based out of Minneapolis with offices in Delafield, Wisconsin, and Charlotte, North Carolina. I'm based out of my home office here in Kansas City, Kansas. Grew up on my family's ranch in the Flint Hills of Kansas near Eureka. Attended Kansas State and worked as a livestock editor for 6 years at Vance Publishing and Farm Journal. Primarily covered the beef and dairy industries with a little bit of coverage in the swine space as well. Um, and since my editorial career, I've switched over to the agency side. Went and started working at Filament, agency out of Madison, Wisconsin, and then they were acquired by Broadhead here a couple of years ago. Some of the clients that I'm currently working on include Beringer Ingelheim, primarily on the cattle side of things, Zenpro, and Estrotect. So when it comes to getting press releases that'll be picked up. It all starts with media relations. Media members need to know who you are. It can't just be a blank face from that email. They need to actually know who you are, which can start with virtual introductions. I know it's a little tougher to get out to events nowadays, but if you can get to events, especially things like Ag Media Summit, those are great ways to get in front of editorial folks. Um, and being involved in organizations like LPC is really helpful. I currently sit on the board of the Ag Communicators Network, which that's organization that's pretty lockstep with LPC too. So that's been helpful for me to uh, connect with more editorial and media folks now. Um, Try to follow up with media on a consistent basis, and find out what content is useful to them. When you have those conversations, just ask them what they're looking for, what's going to get used by them. And then if you've got any content resources, a few of my clients that I work with, we've got blog pages that a lot of that content could be converted into articles. And those can be helpful if you're needing to fill pages or get something into a newsletter. And then share any sources for potential articles if you've got a deep bench of experts that you work with on any clients. That's always helpful. Um, Press releases are a good way to fill content gaps. Media outlets are stretched thin. I know this from my 6 years as a livestock editor that there's not nearly as many folks as there used to be writing in that space. So getting good quality content can help out quite a bit. Um, we're seeing fewer things from the university and extension side when it comes to articles. So if you can put out content that is maybe in that similar vein in the management style, nuts and bolts type of articles, I think that's really helpful. Um, and the press releases can help support media as they're looking to fill those page counts, newsletter requirements, and deadlines like we talked about a little bit before. The content matters that you're putting out. It needs to be informative. It needs to be timely and not too promotional. We don't need to be just an advertisement with press releases. Like I'd mentioned with some of the management style articles, we put out what we call issues articles or management tips, and more of those are in the vein of what you might have seen from an extension column, sharing some expertise. And that's why we use third party experts or data, a lot of it coming from university researchers and uh, agriculture producers are great sources that we can feature in our quotes, and shows that you have a broader network of people that you interact with than just people that are employed by the company that you're sending a press release for. And it comes to the writing side of things, the formatting and tone. AP style, of course, is going to be the main way that you want to write your articles. That's the predominant style that's used across media. Um, Try to write an active voice. That's a lesson that I learned as an intern at Certified Angus Beef from Steve Souther. Um, it's more engaging than passive voice. So I know a lot of the things we write um, in the ag space maybe lend themselves a little more to the passive voice because of all the technical things that we're putting out and research. But if you can make it more engaging, writing with active voice, that really helps out with keeping your readers engaged and getting things published. Then just the inverted pyramid. That's something learned in school, and the press release should flow like a news article. You want to have the most important information there at the top and go down to the bottom. You don't want to bury that lead at the bottom. And make things easy to read. Anymore, folks are reading things online on their phone. So if you can make it easier to skim using those subheads to break up things and bullet points to share any data or small chunks of information that are easy to digest, that's always advisable. And then keep things concise if you can. 500 words or less would be the recommendation I'd go for, though some topics are going to lend themselves to a little longer word counts, but if you can keep it under 500, that's pretty helpful for folks. And on the headline side of things, we want it to be strong, clear, and concise. Summarize your main points quickly. Um, Try to do it within 70 characters. That's the parameters for a lot of websites and helps you out from a search standpoint too if you're not um, putting in too many characters and packing in too many words there. And similar to the tone conversation, active voice is always advisable for headlines and using some of those action verbs. Um, we also want to think like a journalist. What's going to be a headline that's going to be engaging for their readers and the audience that you're trying to target with your press releases. With that, the start of your articles, we need to have some engaging lead paragraphs. The first sentence or two should cover the 5 W's, the who, what, when, where, and why. And avoid fluff, get straight to that news value. Again, don't bury that lead. And with our sources, use compelling quotes. A good quote can add some insight and emotion. You don't want to just restate facts within those quotes. Let them be a little bit of a storyteller within those quotes that they have. It's a great way to highlight those third-party sources that you might have and also helps bring in some of their own voice to the piece. Lets us humanize that content so it's not just a promotional piece. It's getting a little more into what the people behind the brand are doing. And then as a PR person, we need to share useful resources, include links that direct to relevant websites and content. Those links can um, have press releases if for like one of our clients, we work on the international side of things. So might have translations in there. But the main thing is having photos that are going to be large enough to use online or in print. Um, Try to have some authentic photos, things that are real. Limit that editing that you're doing. I know that some cases we want to take off the manure from animals and clean up those ear tags so maybe it doesn't have information there, but other things maybe we don't need to touch up near as much. Get those photos from real farms and ranches. Don't be using AI generated images or graphics. Think that uh, lends itself to maybe cutting down your pickup rates if you're using too much of the artificial intelligence that's out there. And have your contact information in that boilerplate at the bottom and be prepared to follow up with any requests that journalists have. They may not use the full press release and want to do follow-ups with the people you featured in that press release. So be prepared to take any of those requests and help them out as quickly as possible. And here's my contact info if anybody wants to reach out to me and uh, get any support on any of their content that they're doing. Thank you all.
Thanks, Wyatt. I want to do a little special introduction for our next speaker because she's a grandma. So I thought she should have the baby there for us to see, but
No.
congratulations to the newest grandma in our family.
Yes, it's awesome. Everybody says that it's really great, and it is really great. It's pretty fun. So, yeah, he could have made a special appearance, but we're not doing that. I did not arrange for that. So, anyway, thank you for the introduction. I am Holly Martin, and I am the Director of Communications at the American Angus Association. I'll do a little background, I guess. Have been involved with LPC for too many years to count, but I started at my career at High Plains Journal, was there for 26 years as an editor. And I think one of the things that Wyatt and I talked about is that uh, when we switched sides, I came to Angus and he went to the agency world. It was really helpful for us to have that background of experience about what kinds of things that we needed and wanted as an editor. And it just makes it easier. And so I think some of the things that we talk about come from both sides of what our experience has been. And we're going to have a low overlap in what we're talking about a little bit. Wyatt did a great job of covering what makes good writing and all of that stuff. So I'm going to talk a little bit more about going beyond the release because I think maybe he started that way, and that's exactly what I think is important too, is like you can't just send a release cold and expect somebody to run it. So when we talk about a holistic approach for earned media, I think there's three different things that make a difference. Those are relationships, just getting to know the people that you're working with, and making sure that there is, like Wyatt said, a face beyond the email. You're making those connections, creating quality content. Good content is good content. It doesn't and most editors can easily recognize that good content and want to use it when they can. And then like Wyatt also said, filling the gaps is really important. And I think that's the important role that we play today as PR professionals is filling those gaps. So we're going to talk about each one of those things a little bit more. Relationships, getting to know those people is absolutely key. I think that's the basis of everything. And I think it's absolutely the most important part of what we are doing today. As we talked about, there are just cold calls aren't necessarily the most pleasant things as salespeople. And so this is very similar. I said date them. And what I mean is you're not asking for a long-term commitment from somebody you went on a one date with, right? You want to make sure that you've established a relationship before you get to the point where you're asking something of them or asking them to run a release or write a story about the thing that you think is important. So make sure that you're taking the time to do that, and that does take time, and it's hard. And so I think the next logical question is, how do you do that? How do you start that? Well, you can start with a cold call. There's nothing wrong with that. But also, it's much easier if you go where the editors and the broadcasters are. And so I don't know if any of us on this call are going to be at Farm Broadcaster at the convention this week. Go LPC. We're all here. We've already made that commitment to be a part of LPC, going to ACN, to the Ag Media Summit, going to NCBA, where there's a lot of editors trying to cover a lot of content, making those relationships, that makes it much easier. And I see that Lisa Mosier's on the call. I have spoken to her class before, and I say this to students also. I say go to the bar, and what I mean by that is not necessarily that you have to go to the bar. It just means that go to places that you can establish a social relationship with the editors, and they get to know you, and then it becomes not just somebody trying to push something on you. And then the next thing is, it's not all about you as a PR professional or as somebody who's writing writing press releases, you have to be sure that you are establishing that relationship first before you get to the point where you can try to pitch them ideas and make sure that they're, you know, your friends first. So next is quality content. Wyatt did a great job of covering the nuts and bolts of all of that kind of stuff. I think good content is good content. And when I talk about this in general, I know we're Livestock Publications Council, but we are also broadcasters and you know, radio professionals, all those kinds of things. I think it's important that we recognize that content isn't just this. Kind of hurts my heart a little bit as somebody who graduated many years ago, and writing was really the only way that you could connect. Writing and an ag, a ag radio station were really the only ways that you could connect. Today, there's 7 million more things that you can do, right? And so, whatever platform it's on, good content is good content. And I think the key is making sure that it matters to whatever audience they have. And I'll use this example. Angus writes a press release every time somebody joins the association. So they join the association, we write a press release specifically for them and send it to their local paper. And, we have the luxury of having lots of people and the ability to do that. But it is by and large one of the best pickups that we get because it meets one of those qualifications of news, which is local, right? It's something that matters to the people in their paper or in their radio listening area. And so whatever you do, trying to make your news, the intention of what you want to get out into something that matters to their audience, if you can do that, I think that makes it much more likely to get picked up. And then finally, again, it's not all about you. As Wyatt said, there are ways if you can switch it, instead of it saying, hey, I have a new product that kills flies, you can say, hey, one of the biggest losses or, one of the things that is most annoying to ranchers out there is that they have to deal with flies every day. And so you talk about the problem and, oh, by the way, we have a product that'll solve that issue. So I think doing it in that way really does help and really provides the key to making sure it's news, not necessarily a product push. And then finally, filling the gaps. I think that when I started, the number of staff members at High Plains Journal in the editorial department was significantly more than it is today. And then at the same time, Angie can talk about this too. Angie's not just being asked to write stories for the print magazine for drovers. She's also being asked to write content for their email, for their website, create photo galleries, create video, whatever it might be, do social media, all the things. And so we're asking our editors and our communicators to do 50 million things and with fewer people. And it's just not sustainable. And so what do? They look for ways for things that people can do to fill the gaps. And so if we can be that for them, that's what we need to be. We want to be helpful, not annoying. And I will say this also, as sitting in an editor's seat, and I think Wyatt could probably also talk about this. There's this sweet spot between being helpful, being there, being present and being annoying, and the good PR professionals live in that sweet spot every single day. They know how to provide, know when to call, know what, like we were on weekly deadlines at High Plains Journal, and if you are a PR professional and you called me when I was writing my column 30 minutes before it was due, you weren't getting through. So, just knowing those pieces are really important. And that all goes back to that relationships as well. Asking them what they need. Wyatt talked about that, making sure that we are saying, hey, do you have a special issue that you need extra copy for? Do you have an Angus specific issue? And then asking them, like, working with them so that they don't call you 5 minute or, a day before and say, "Hey, what do you got?" Make sure that you can navigate that so that you're providing them what they need and you're getting your content out there as well. And then I think we've talked about this enough as well. Multimedia just makes all the difference, right? It's no longer do we need to just provide a press release, providing them good pictures and maybe a video clips and raw video if they need, if it's a radio guide that's also providing TV content to the local TV station. So just making sure that you're providing what they need. So that is all I have. There's my contact information if anybody needs anything. And I guess I Wyatt and I wanted to open it up for questions. I also have a few that I could toss out too if there's anything that anybody has. So I guess
Anybody have any
my
questions
question
for
I would
Holly?
ask, go ahead, you go.
I was just gonna say, does anybody have any questions for Holly or Wyatt?
Yeah.
Have either of your teams started using AI as a resource? And if so, how? And what are your thoughts on it?
Yeah, we've been using AI for the last year and a half through a proprietary chat GPT that we've got access to. Most of how I've used it is for just general searches. Haven't used it really for writing any content. Might use it for some brainstorming for um, headlines and subheads, some of that shorter copy, or maybe some social type copy, but not for the main body copy or anything like that. It's not really the best use of that tool. And then also have used some other things that are kind of in the AI space, like transcribe transcription services. One that we've used is Rev, and they've got a AI portal for it. And then within our teams, we have AI transcriptions there. So for interviews that we're doing with experts and things, would be using it in that capacity because it's a lot cheaper and faster to get it done than going through the transcription service and having a human uh, do it. And I think for the most part, they're using AI to start those transcriptions anyways before a human goes in and listens to them anymore. Um, and in the past, I'd used a headline analyzer tool. I can't remember the name of it. I wrote a blog on this for the Ag Communicators Network, and could see about sharing that with Stacy. And that's been a helpful tool, especially to help out with things like SEO. Um, it does a really good job on that front. I think it's called CoSchedule. I haven't used that in a year or so, but when I was an editor at Farm Journal, I used it a lot to help me out on that front.
Yeah, that's cool. I have not used a headline analyzer. I think that's cool. We also have it's not, we use AI that is specifically for our business and are not allowed to use anything outside of that. And so we use it mainly for brainstorming. I think that is like I used it as we were heading into a quarterly planning session. And I'm like, okay, here's the outcome of the discussion I want to get. Is there an activity that I can do to help us get to where we want to be, et cetera, those kinds of things. It can also be helpful to edit things down a little bit or to make suggestions about like if you really struggle with active voice, making sure that tell me how can I make this more active? And you can't, I don't think, just go, yep, sounds good, go on, because it still sounds fake, right? So that's not what you want to do. But if there's ways that you can help identify copy that you're really struggling with or things like that, I think AI can be helpful.
Lisa had a question. Any tips for writing keywords for search engines to help you get information picked up?
Um, no, not really. I do think there are things that um the how-to things, because with today, I just think the world is changing, and with the AI, I'm so outside of my area of expertise right now. But you see traffic go down because people they're going to Google to answer the question, right? And so if you ask the question into Google, if you have the answers on your page or on where you're providing, becoming the source, I think that's helpful, if that makes sense.
Yeah, on the search engine side of things, like I'd mentioned, using that co-schedule has helped out from a SEO standpoint for headlines and maybe some of that shorter like subhead copy. I've also used a tool called SEMrush that helps out with searching keywords and being able to figure out what people are Google searching. But things are changing on the search engine front with GEO, and that's going to alter, I think, how things work from a PR standpoint and getting things picked up and where they're going to show up in a Google search and those AI searches like with Gemini on Google.
Lindsay Sankey has a question. What tool do you use to determine if your PRs are picked up? Press
Yeah,
releases are
I was
picked
going to ask that question too. Um I don't know, CAB and Angus use the same one, and it's critical mention is what we use right now. My question specifically was going to be also about, I think they do a really good job of getting the big ones, right? If Angie publishes something, we know, right? But there's so many more smaller, more, regional publications and radio stations and things like that that I know it doesn't get. And so I wondered if anybody has had great success with that, and why it may have something else too.
Yeah, we also use Critical Mention and also Muck Rack. Those are the two tools that we um, have for determining pickups, but it seems like I still find more doing Google searches or going through sites like Issue that have those printed PDFs on there that you can do some searching through. I know which publications to go back and look at and sort through, and then still doing the physical hand searching, looking at print issues and things. From the broadcast standpoint, you can do um, some searching with critical mention and muckrack, but it doesn't capture everything. You've got to really fine tune things for it to get those.
The other thing I was going to say is we're working on, um, and then I don't know that this is really going to tell you, it's not going to tell us where they were run, but if what your people need is data, I mean, if your clients or your department heads or your product managers need data, we're in the process of trying to figure out if we can create reports off of the photo downloads, so typically, I guess I don't think there's very many instances where somebody's going to use a release that they don't also need the photo. And so if we can say, okay, well, this release had 15 photo downloads, compared to that one, I think it's maybe more relevant for us to be able to say, why is this release more is being used more than a different one. And that doesn't exactly tell us all the data that we need, but it does help, I think.
Yeah, something I do, Holly, when I send out a press release and then I see that it's had link clicks by particular editors or publications, is go back and look at that publication within the first week or so, and then maybe a month later down the road to see if they were able to use it or not.
I wasn't going to scare them so that they knew that we were
Yeah.
doing that. So, but yeah.
Any other questions? Holly, what were some of the ones you were going to ask?
That was one of them. The other one was just, you know, I think there's times where it's like we spend a lot of time on releases and writing releases and all of that kind of stuff. And it I just wondered if other people were evaluating the return on investment of those kinds of things and how they were measuring that, I guess. Do you have demands from brand managers or things like that? If there, or is there, um, one of the things that I think is a very real challenge is that we have brand managers or product managers or department leads or whatever who think that checking the box by sending the press release out is doing, and they want lots of product mention and they want all of that kind of stuff. And so I think there's relationships you have to build within your own team as well to make sure that they're understanding that, doing some of these less obvious things are just as helpful or more helpful than getting a release in a new product section or whatever. So, um, date your what kinds of things you can do lots of things to date your editors. I and I don't know if this is right or not, and I don't see much as much of this as I used to, but because time is so valuable, but anytime that some of the most memorable products and relationships I ever developed were because of media events. And I think that those just but they can't be all about your product. They have to be providing really good content. People aren't going to invest spending a day with you if they aren't going to get lots of content out of it. And so you have to do they're high cost, but if you do a good job of creating really great story ideas and putting the good people in front of them to interview and those kinds of things, I think those are high cost, but also high value in the long run. Um,
I'll add to that, Holly. I agree. I mean, I think those chances where you get to go and spend a day. I mean, when I was on the flip side, when I was at Hereford, we had Hereford media events and we had like 2 day events that we brought people in. And not only are you giving those editors a chance to take pictures, but talk to professionals. Now in this role, I mean, just for example, like we went to Alltech in May, a group of us livestock editors from Farm Journal, and that was a great 2 day event where we got to meet with professionals at Alltech. We got story ideas, we got to, learn more about their program. And um, so I do think those things, if financially you can do it and financially you can get the editors there, those are very worthwhile and can end up, lots of stories. Like I haven't even wrote all the stories that I want to write from that event yet, but they're in my pocket to someday hopefully follow up with and work on. And so
mhm.
I do think those are great. And things when I was at Hereford, just the number of Hereford photos that we saw people run after we had that event, we took them to different places and saw them, help them take pictures, or gave them the opportunity to take pictures of different groups, I think is so valuable, like in your role at Angus today. Just my 2 cents.
Yep, I'd echo that. The media events are really great when we can host those and get people to them, or even when I was a journalist, being able to attend those and getting out and learning from the experts. Another thing that you can do to date your editors is sending media kits out. If you've got the budget to do that, those are good ways to connect and share information. We just did one for Beringer Ingelheim this year, and I think that's what Angie's pulling up. It came in a like a whey protein powder deal. It was about our Healthy Heifers program, and we had a lot of nice things tied to
I
both.
saw a TikTok about it.
Yeah,
One of the Angus editors did a TikTok about it. So,
yeah, had a lot of nice pieces in there for both human health. I think we put a um, oh, whatever the watches are that was in there. Yeah,
oh,
a
yeah.
Fitbit. We had the Fitbit in there, but then also had some trading cards in there with information about our tech experts, and then the various principles of the program. And then just when you're at events, if you've got a nice little thank you that you can give to editors for sharing their time with you at an event like NCBA or World Dairy Expo or World Pork Expo, because they've got to be pulled a lot of different directions to cover the event. And if they're spending a little bit of time with you, nice thank you gift of some sort is always a nice touch.
Morgan, I'm going to answer this question because we deal with this a lot. Like, uh, we're Angus people, we send out photos with our releases. We don't, there's not a release that goes out that doesn't have a photo with it. And yet they'll run it and then run red cattle with it. And I guess we haven't solved that problem because it continues to happen. And I think the challenge is that those releases are going out, and I'm gonna guess that probably an editor goes, here you go. Hey, web editor, put it over here on this, and they pull a photo and it just gets it, it's not necessarily that photo. Or maybe there's a web editor that doesn't have the experience that Angie Denton has, right? And so um the only thing I can say is that I've tried on a handful of occasions when I see that editor the next time or an editor from that publication, I'll say, "Hey, I've noticed a couple times this has happened. There's a we'll always be happy to provide photos if you don't like the one that we provided. I don't know if that works or not. If anybody has other suggestions, I'd be happy to take them."
I think providing photos is a big thing today, Holly. I mean, like, or at least being here and the access that I don't have to photo. I mean, there's some, thankfully, Wyatt, there's a bunch of his photos in our CMS that I can find. But anyway, from my perspective, and then I don't have a budget to buy photos, unfortunately. And so, like, those of you that are sending me press releases or work for breed associations, if you can provide photos and help us build photos, I mean, I really think because travel is so hard these days and getting out there, um, I do, in my position today, that is really something that we lack is the photo library that I wish we had that, or that I could go get pictures or I could buy pictures or whatever. So I think for those of you that are sending me stories and press releases, if you can send me photos to go with it, I'll probably use them. So like Wyatt, I know you send me pictures. Lori, some of her stuff comes with pictures. Those usually if you send them with us, we use them. So anybody else have any questions or comments? That 45 minutes went really fast. So yeah, there's some comments here. Don't forget to vote for the People Choice Contest. I hope everybody has a wonderful Thanksgiving. I'll be real honest with you. I don't know if we have one scheduled for December. Do you know, Stacy? I can't remember off the top of my head.
I have not heard anything on it yet. We usually do something kind of fun for
Yeah,
December.
I'm
So,
sorry. Watch on social media.
yeah.
We'll post that. I can't really remember what we've talked about as a committee. So watch for us and hope to see everybody at CattleCon. And we are recording this. We'll have it up on the website later. And so we do appreciate all of you. If you have any ideas or things that you'd like us to cover, shoot Rachel or I an email or text or any of us to kind of let us know what you like to talk about. This we had a great turnout today, and I think this was a great one. So thank you, Holly. Thank you, Wyatt. From the bottom of my heart, I appreciate what both of you do. You know, when I'm looking for 3 to 5 stories a day to go out on our e-newsletter. I appreciate that content that comes in that isn't the hard sell, that is a soft sell, but has a good angle that my readers can use and value from. So thank you. And we appreciate all you joining us, and we'll see you soon.